And I want to welcome you to this section and this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're live from the Congress of the Automotive Repair and Service Industry, ASRW, which is the Automotive Service and Repair Week. And it is a fantastic event. It's an event where technicians, both on the collision side and also on the mechanical side, can come together with the industry that supports those technicians that do one thing, and that is to keep America driving. And keep America driving on safe highways, on safe cars. And how do you know? How do you know exactly when to replace something? If you're the owner of an automobile, you go to a service shop and they advise you. If you're a service shop and the owner comes in, we advise the service. I've been in the business for 41 years. We advise the owner of what that car needs. But there has to be trust, and there has to be information. And that information we're going to get now from the Gates Corporation. Who better than the Gates Corporation? Because we're going to be talking about belts, which, well, doesn't drive the car, but it certainly drives the accessories that allows that car. And with us is Bobby Bassett. And Bobby, I want to welcome you to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, thanks, Bob. Certainly appreciate it.
Let's talk about, number one, give us a 30,000-foot view of the Gates Corporation and the products that you make. And then I want to get into the training, the program that you have, and the products that you have that allow me, and I'm in the service business, to do a better job.
Well, the Gates Corporation was first formed in 1911, and the first V-belt in 1917. We were really a problem-solving product. We, company, a lot of the companies that we work with come to us, and we develop and research and develop products that they may have specific problems under the hood of their vehicles, and so we produce those products to help them out of some of the problems that they may have. Now, 50% of our business is really split from OE to aftermarket, so we enjoy both portions of the industry today.
So you dance to do different tunes then.
Absolutely.
But in the bottom line is, and you mentioned the V-belt.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting to me is that the belt actually wedges its way into the groove and doesn't touch the bottom of the groove.
Absolutely.
And as long as I've been in the business, I don't know when I first learned that. It's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But a belt that looks good and can still be bad.
Absolutely. You know, things change today, especially with the serpentine belt. And the serpentine belt still wedges, but it does so differently because it's got so many ribs across the width of the belt. And you'll see I've got an example here. So it's very important today that the belt still wedges itself into the pulley. Now, that wedging force creates a pulley belt interface, or it creates friction as it transfers the power. And today, truly, the belt only has one job, and that is to transfer the torque from the crank to all of those accessories.
And what was the original, I guess, inspiration for an engineer, if you know the story, to me, what was the original inspiration to go with a wider, narrow, skinny belt as compared to a big V belt? I remember air conditioner belts were, gosh, I know that you may know the numbers, but they were a half inch or even wider apart than a standard alternator belt. It seemed that the bigger the load, the bigger the belt, the heavier the belt. So what's so great about a serpentine belt?
Let me ask you this. What was happening in 1978? Maybe we had a gasoline crisis.
78. 70, yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
And we were trying to increase the miles per gallon on the vehicle. So what happened was, is research and development sat down with OE. They redesigned the whole under the hood of the vehicle, and we moved away from maybe 3 V-belts to 1 serpentine, and it allowed us to eliminate, and I believe the number was around 28 pounds off the front of the engine because of all the brackets and everything else that was in place. So that equates back to additional gas mileage. So that's really where the serpentine belt came from. And
so from, not to interrupt you, but from a manufacturing standpoint, and as long as I've been in the business, I never really put that two together.
Mm-hmm.
We eliminate all those pulleys.
Mm-hmm.
We rely on one belt. I was concerned initially, as I'm sure many people in my industry were, that one belt, well, if that goes down, you're out of luck.
Absolutely. Still that way today, and it's so important because the serpentine belt powers everything in the system. And if you lose that, then what? We've lost power steering, air conditioning, your batteries. And these systems today are so power hungry. They put a tremendous strain on the alternator. So we've got to have a belt that's running, that's in good shape, that's not slipping, And I like to begin my conversations normally with when I teach the classes, have you ever heard a belt squeal? And in most cases, it's not a belt problem. It's because something else is happening in the system that's making the belt make noise.
So how do we look at, without dismantling the automobile, someone drives their vehicle in, and we're in the industry, so we're the doctor.
Right.
You say, and we look into your mouth, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm looking under your hood, and I'm a technician. Train me. How do I do a better job?
Well, like I said before, everything's changed today. In years past, we used to have a neoprene belt. And I have an example here of a neoprene belt that you can see cracks on it. And this is around 65,000 miles, and I really call it's almost like a cake in the oven. The more heat you put to it, the quicker that it bakes. And so what happens now is this belt has lost all its gripping ability. It's no longer gripping. Around 1998, the neoprene, the OEs began to demand longer-lasting products. And so we began to manufacture our belt with EPDM. And EPDM is a short word for ethylene propylene diene class M of rubber.
That's easy for you to say.
That's easy for me. That's why we call it EPDM. Please don't ask me to spell that. But you'll see that this belt on the other side, then the crack has about 65,000 miles. This belt on the EPDM belt has well over 100,000 miles.
Wait. Now the one that's all cracked up has 65,000 miles, and this one has 100 plus.
It has 100 plus miles on it.
But this belt looks as new, It looks as new.
It looks as new, and the danger is that when the technician goes or the consumer goes to replace a component on their car, they'll look at that belt and they'll go, "Oh, it still looks okay. Let's reuse it." When in fact, it's actually more failed than that neoprene belt.
Show me.
Well, one way that we like to do, of course, the most obvious are the older neoprene belts. If it's cracked, then we know it's failed. The EPDM belts will crack, but they do it at such a slower rate that by the time you see the cracks, the belt's already failed anyway. So we've developed around 2010, we developed this small tool. It's called a belt wear tool. And what we found, Bobby, was that the technicians were not replacing the belts like they should. And we couldn't understand why. And this is why. It's because of the change in material.
I can see.
They're still looking for cracks. The belts aren't cracking. So what you do is you simply take this tool. Now, Bobby, I've got to start this conversation this way with the engine off.
Okay? I got it.
With the engine off, I'm going to place the tool on my finger, and I'll put it in the belt. If there's good wear on the belt and I run my finger across it this way, you'll feel the tool stick up. Now, I don't have the correct sample there for you for that. It's off stage, but you would feel it stick up. You would still feel the tool. If the belt's worn, then you will not feel that belt stick up at all.
So the tool stick up. You're talking tread depth the same way as we do in a tire.
It's just like a tire.
Just like a tire.
A belt wears just like a tire.
Well, wouldn't you know that I had to come all the way to Cars Convention and get Bobby Bassett on the stage to learn what I didn't know, and therein lies, I guess, the single biggest asset that we brought to the table with you here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic was how to tell whether or not the belt is worn simply.
Absolutely. There's one other piece of this that the technician needs to be aware of, because today, because of the EPDM material and the way it wears, the tensioner today has the same life cycle as the belt. So when you go to replace your belt, if you don't replace the tensioner, you're asking this tensioner to run another 100,000 miles, because this belt has the ability to do that. The tensioner will not be able to do that. At some point, it's going to give up, and they're coming back to you for a comeback.
So the moral of that story is we should replace the timing, the accessory drive belt and the tensioner as a kit, as we do with timing belts.
Correct.
Because our industry does that anyway.
Absolutely.
Bobby, thank you for joining me on Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, there's a great lesson learned. Yours truly. I openly admit that I have learned how to tread depth a belt, not a belt on a tire, but a belt under the hood. Hey, stay tuned. More coming up from the Cars Convention. From Automotive Service Association's Congress of Automotive Repair and Service, I'm Bobby Likis. Thanks for tuning in.